This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Thailand. Hello, Gila.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, Alma, and good afternoon to all our viewers. I'm Gila Pablo from ABC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the latest news around the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. A clash between Myanmar soldiers and villagers wielding homemade guns left at least 3 civilians dead in the south of the coup-stricken country on Saturday, according to state media, although one witness put the death toll at 12.
A black box from a container Singapore ship sinking of Sri Lanka was recovered, but a dive Sunday to check for oil leaks had to be aborted.
Dutch judges will today start the hearing evidence against 3 Russian suspects and a Ukrainian in the downing of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 over the war-torn Ukraine in 2014.
Philippine teenager Yuka Saso bearded the third playoff hole to beat Japan's Nasa Hataoka and win the U.S. Women's Open at Olympic Club on Sunday.
First, a clash between Myanmar soldiers and villagers wielding homemade guns left at least 3 civilians dead in the south of the coup-stricken country on Saturday, according to state media, although one witness put the death toll at 12. Fighting broke out in Kyeonpyeong in the southern Ayayawardi region when villagers retaliated after more than 100 soldiers came to arrest members of a local defense force, according to a villager who told this to AFP. The resident, who did not want to be named, said that 12 civilians, including a 4-year-old child, had been killed. State TV MRTV gave a lower toll, reporting that 3 civilians had been killed and several members of the security forces had been injured in a clash. Myanmar has been in chaos and its economy paralyzed since the military ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's government in February, accusing it of fraud during 2020 elections. More than 800 people have since been killed in a brutal military crackdown on dissent, according to a local monitoring group, and fighting has flared up with several ethnic rebel groups.
Four months after the Myanmar military ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi and unleashed a brutal crackdown on dissent that has killed hundreds, some urban protesters have fled the cities and reappeared in rebel-held jungle territory to train for combat against the military regime.
ဒီတိုက်တဲ့အနေထားမှာလိုအပ်တဲ့ဒီတစ်ဖက်နဲ့တစ်ဖက်ကန်ကိုကူးတဲ့အခါမှာဒီကျိုးတန်းပေါ်မှာနေကျွန်တော်တို့ဟိုဘက်ကန်တစ်ဖက်ကိုရောက်အောင်သွားတာဒီနောက်တစ်ခါဒီကိုလုံးကိုပေါ့နော်ကျိုးနဲ့တက်ပြီးတော့ကဘားတွေမှာတွေ့တက်ရတယ်အဲ့လိုခက်ခဲတဲ့တင်တန်းတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ဟိုပြောမယ်စူးစမ်းပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်ခက်ခဲကျွန်တော်တို့တင်ယူရတယ်နောက်ပြီးကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီလက်နက်ပစ်ခတ်တဲ့နေရာတွေမှာဒီရန်သူကိုဘယ်လိုပြောမလဲမှန်ကန်အောင်ပြစ်နိုင်မှုအတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့လေ့ကျင့်သင်ကြားရတယ်ဟုတ်တယ်ခွန်ကြောင်ရมาขับลาเนาะเนี่ยပေါ့
အကိုတို့အမတို့ပေါ့နော်စိတ်မလျှော့ပါနဲ့ပေါ့နော်ဆက်ပြီးတော့တော်လန်ပါပေါ့နော်ညီမတို့လည်းတစ်ဖက်တစ်လမ်းကနေဆက်ပြီးတော့ကူညီပေးပါပေါ့နော်ဒီတော်လန်ရဲ့မအောင်မချင်းကတော့ဆက်ပြီးတော့အတင်းထားပေးပါလို့ဟုတ်ကဲ့
Meanwhile, envoys from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations held talks with Myanmar's junta with its top general, reiterating he would only allow fresh elections once the coup-stricken country had returned to normal, according to state-run television channel in Yangon. Eriwan Pain Yusof, Brunei's second minister for foreign affairs, and ASEAN Secretary General Lim Hock Hoi held discussions with junta leader Min Aung Hlaing. The junta's information team said in a statement. The top general said the junta would hold fresh elections when the situation has returned to normal, according to its statement, without providing details. The junta has previously said it would hold elections within 2 years. ASEAN has led diplomatic efforts to resolve the crisis in Myanmar, but the regional bloc is not known for its diplomatic clout, and observers have questioned how effectively it can influence events in the country. Myanmar has been in chaos and its economy paralyzed since the military ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's government in February, accusing it of fraud during 2020 elections. ASEAN has led diplomatic efforts to resolve the crisis in Myanmar, but the regional bloc is not known for its diplomatic clout, and observers have questioned how effectively it can influence events in the country. Following a meeting in April, which was closed to media, leaders issued a 5-point consensus statement that called for the immediate cessation of violence and a visit to Myanmar by a regional special envoy. But the general said in a later television interview that Myanmar was not ready to adopt the plan. A special envoy has yet to be appointed, and violence has continued across the country. A shadow government made up of former lawmakers, mostly from Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party, on Thursday also called on all visiting leaders to meet with its representatives. It was not clear whether the ASEAN envoys plan to meet with members of the shadow government, which the junta has designated as terrorists.
Myanmar's economy and banking system have been paralyzed since a military power grab in February, and livelihoods have been lost after strikes and factory closures. In a country which in normal times exports rice, beans, and fruit, millions will go hungry in the coming months. The World Food Program has warned. Let's watch this.
ပြီးတော့လူတဲ့လူလေးတွေအတွက်လေးတွေတွက်နေကိုတွေစားတောက်ပြီးတော့နေရတဲ့ဘဝလေးတွေဖြစ်နေပြီးနောက်ထပ်ဒါအဲ့လိုမျိုးတာဆက်ပြီးတော့ဖြစ်မယ်ဆိုရင်တော့ငတ်မှာပဲငါပြောနေတိုင်းမှာနော် စားဖို့နေရတွေကတော့ထိကြိုက်တာပေါ့ဝင်ဝင်ရော့သွားတာပေါ့တယောက်က9000ညာတယောက်က9000ညာဆို2ယောက်ဆိုရင်စင်ပြေတယ်အခုကတယောက်လောက်ပဲအလုပ်ကတယ်အဲ့တယောက်ကလောက်ကပြီးနားပလိန်နောက်တယောက်ကအဲ့လိုမျိုးလေးလုပ်နေရတော့နင်းလဲအစင်ပြေသေးတယ်အခုလိုမျိုးကြတော့ခက်ခဲနေပြီအကုန်လုံးနားဆိုတော့ခက်ခဲနေတယ်
အ
ဆက်ရုံအလုပ်တော်မဟုတ်ဘူးနော်အဲ့ဒီလိုလာခေါ်တဲ့အဲ့ဒီပါဆောက်တဲ့လူရှိလို့ရှိရင်လိုက်ပြီးတော့မေးတယ်အိမ်ဆောက်မလားအိမ်နာကျွင်းတူးမလားအဲ့လိုမျိုးလိုက်ပြီးတော့ဆက်တယ်အဲ့လိုဆက်လို့ရှိရင်တော့ရောက်ပြီးတော့စားရတာပေါ့ဆရာဆိုအလုံးက
အခုတော့ကျွန်တော်ကပြောသလိုအဆင်ပြေတယ်အဲ့နိုင်ငံရေးကိစ္စဖြစ်တဲ့ဟူကကျွန်တော်တို့မှအဆင်မပြေဘူးလဲမလဲပဲဘူးအခုတော့ကျွန်တော်ပြောသလိုပေါ့ဝတ်သားစားရတဲ့နေရာမှာငပိလောက်ပဲစားလို့ရတယ်ငပိစားမယ့်နေရာမှာအဖြူတွေပဲစားရတော့ဗျစားနဲ့အဖြူထမင်းနဲ့ပဲစားရတာအခုဒီနေ့ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့မှဒီနေ့ထမင်းကြောင်မချက်နိုင်ဘူး
A boat filled with dozens of Rohingya, mostly women and children, has landed off the Indonesian coast after a months-long perilous journey. Let's listen in.
Kita pun mia keci itu surah lusa, surah patah. Injil pun surah lusa dia surah maswa aimia. India mari kita sekarang mau tolong saya mau mati. Mari sini besar mau nebi India Coast Guard. Dia mau mari angkat dia mia ship. Lapar pun tamu tada minum air pun tada beras pun tada tamu makan kita 1 bulan simia dulu. Injil pun patah kan, boot pun patah. Kita mau mana pergi apa pun tamu pergi. Kita macam ini tamu makan tulung. Tengok 1 hari India mia nebi 1 Mario apa hal kita tengok kita macam ini mia hal.
It was the latest in a wave of arrivals with nearly 400 members of the persecuted Muslim minority landing by boat in Indonesia last year after perilous journeys from cramped refugee camps in Bangladesh next to their native Myanmar. On Friday, about 80 Rohingya landed their vessel on the tiny Pulau Idaman, a small island just off the coast of northern Sumatra. The group was hoping to land in neighboring Malaysia, where more than 100,000 Rohingya live on the margins of society, registered as refugees but not allowed to work, forcing them into illegal construction and other low-paid jobs. One of them said some victims perished from lack of food and water, adding that the boat had earlier been picked up by Indian authorities who repaired the vessel and then sent it back to the sea. The deaths could not be independently verified or confirmed by AFP. But Chris Liwa from the Arakan Project, which tracks Rohingya boat sailing, said the refugees were likely from a boat that had broken down at sea in February, with a similar number of passengers believed to have died. The vessel was thought to have left from Bangladesh. Indonesian authorities have yet to comment publicly, but previous migrants have been placed in makeshift refugee camps. In September, a group of nearly 300 Rohingya arrived in northern Indonesia after what they described as months of terror on the high seas. They reported being beaten by human traffickers as they battled illness, hunger, and thirst, with the corpses of those who died at sea thrown overboard.
More than 1.1 million people fully vaccinated in Malaysia. Alfred Balmes of Malaysia Bureau.
Hi, Jayla.
Hello, Alfred.
Hi, Jayla. Good afternoon. The Malaysian government administered a total of 1,128,738 individuals who have completed the 2-dose COVID-19 vaccination as of June 5. According to Health Ministry, Datok Siri Dr. Adam Baba, another 2,364,455 people had received the first dose, bringing the total number of doses administered in the country to 3,493,193. The state of Selangor recorded the highest number of people who had completed both doses at 145,970, followed by the Sarawak, 119,306, Perak, 105,525, Kuala Lumpur, 101,821, and Johor, 98,276. As reported from the local newspaper here, as of Saturday, 52.3% or 12,683,764 individuals have registered for national COVID-19 immunization program, state of Selangor recording the highest number of recipients at 3,353,308 people. The first phase of the program from February to April involved 500,000 frontliners. The second phase from April until August will involve 9.4 million people comprising senior citizens, vulnerable groups, and people with disabilities, while the third phase from May to February next year will involve individuals aged 18 and above, both citizens and non-citizens, totaling some 13.7 million people. That would be the latest updates for the vaccination here in the country. Back to you, Jelai.
Thank you so much, Alfred. Please keep us posted and stay safe and healthy always.
Likewise, live reporting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, this is Alfred Balmes. We live in interesting times.
This portion is brought to you by Security Bank.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back, and you're still here with ASEAN in Focus. Vietnam Health Ministry has just confirmed 44 new COVID patients locally. Vietnam has managed to keep infection rates low, but cases have rapidly increased in the past month. Here's more from Micah Gwyneth Apostol. Hello, Micah.
Hello, Alma.
Go ahead, Micah.
Here's the latest news from VN Express. Vietnam's domestic cases reached 5,666 Monday as the country is on its sixth week of new wave of infections. Northern province of Bac Giang continues to log highest number of infections at 3,113, followed by Bac Ninh with 1,099 and Hanoi with 438. 44 local COVID-19 cases are confirmed by Health Ministry Monday, which are recorded in 3 northern provinces of Bac Giang, Bac Ninh, Hanam, and Ho Chi Minh City. For the vaccination status, more than 1.2 million out of 96 million population has been vaccinated against COVID-19. Meanwhile, fashion designers in Vietnam adapt to the new normal by shifting to making online content. Vietnam International Fashion Week, which was originally scheduled in May, was canceled and awaiting to be rescheduled, the chairman of the event, Trang Le, said, I have always had online meetings with the members of the Council of Asean Fashion Designers. Many designers across the region have faced difficulties, but we cannot stand still and wait for the pandemic to end. An application is being prepared to release by the Council, which aims to connect designers with their customers and for promoting online fashion shows. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much for your updates there in Vietnam. Looking forward to more updates in Vietnam. And before we go, happy birthday, Micah. I hope you have a great day.
Thank
Stay
you
safe.
so much. Reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam, this is Micah Gwyneth Apostle. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Conjen Edgar Badajos relayed the newest, the earlier IATF travel advisory from here. He also shared the preparations of the Los Angeles Consulate for the upcoming Independence Day celebrations. Here's Donna Roscoe and his interview from our EBC Silicon Valley. Don?
A new travel advisory has been issued by the Philippine Consulate General in Los Angeles. We have with us Consul General Edgar Badajos to present that new travel advisory. Conjen?
Yes, Don. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to your listeners and viewers. How are you?
We are actually live here at Net25 TV, and we just wanted for you to update us on the latest travel advisory for the benefit of our listeners. Conjen?
Yes, Don. First, clarification. The public advisory is actually not being issued by us. It's being issued by the Interagency Task Force against the COVID-19 in the Philippines. And these are disseminated to the Filipino community worldwide through the Philippine consulates and embassies. And so we echo it. And so what is that advisory? This new advisory states that anyone who's going back to the Philippines, who's going home, regardless of your vaccination status, needs to undergo a 14-day quarantine period. The first 10 days is going to be mandatory, and that is to be spent in a quarantine facility. On the 7th day from your arrival in the Philippines, you will again have to undergo another swab test. If you test negative, you still need to continue staying in the quarantine facility for the next 3 days for a total of 10-day mandatory quarantine. And then after the 10th day, you will now be allowed to go to your hometown or province or city, where you will spend the last 4 days of your 14-day quarantine in a home quarantine status. So that's the new advisory to our fellow Filipinos and those traveling to the Philippines currently. Who are allowed to go back to the Philippines? Of course, our fellow Filipinos, Filipino citizens. Foreigners still not allowed, except for those with spouses or who are married to Filipino nationals. And also our dual citizens, of course, they can go back to the Philippines.
We are expecting, Conjen, California, the state of California, to open by June 15. Will there be any changes on the work procedure that you actually implement in the consulate?
Don, the only change that's going to happen is that we will probably be able to increase the number of appointment slots that we'll be able to take in on a given day. Currently, we are only admitting 96 applicants for a passport. I think 20 for dual citizenship. When the California economy opens on June 15, we will certainly increase the number of appointment slots. Meaning the number of people who can be admitted here at the Philippine Consulate on Wilshire Boulevard to apply for either passports or dual citizenship. For the information of our fellow Filipinos and fellow Filipino Americans in California, in Southern California, Don, we have actually been observing normal operations since June of last year, except that we needed to limit the number of people who can apply. But with the opening of the California economy on June 15, as I said, we will probably increase the number of applicants per day.
Yun. Thank you so much for your time, Consul General Edgar Badajos. And so far, just a quick one before I let you go. How is this transition so far? I know you came from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and you arrived here only like 2 months ago. How is the transition so far?
This transition is going very smoothly, Don, thanks to a very competent and able consulate staff here, the Consulate General in Los Angeles, and also a very supportive and cooperative Filipino and Filipino-American community. I'm actually enjoying this transition period.
Okay. Thank you so much, Consul General Edgar Badajos. He is our Consul General in Los Angeles, California. Reporting live here from Silicon Valley, California, this is Don Orozco for Eagle News, and we live in interesting times.
Sorry. Again, meanwhile, here's the updated advisory from Manila. All individuals who are fully vaccinated against the coronavirus disease 2019 in the Philippines can leave and enter the country with a shorter quarantine period of 7 days upon return, Malacanang said on Friday. The new rule was contained in the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, ATF-EID latest guidelines on inbound international travel to any port of the Philippines of all fully vaccinated individuals who have been inoculated in the Philippines. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said in a press statement. He said the fully vaccinated individual must carry his or her vaccinated card, which must be verified prior to departure and must be presented to a Bureau of Quarantine or BOQ representative for re-verification of the Department of Transportation one-stop shop upon arrival in the Philippines. Instead of spending 10 days in an isolation facility and observing 4-day home quarantine, the fully vaccinated individuals who wish to return to the country will just undergo a 7-day facility-based quarantine upon arrival. He said reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR testing will only be done in case the fully vaccinated individual manifests COVID-19 symptoms within the 7-day quarantine. Vaccines administered to the individuals in the Philippines should either be covered by the Food and Drug Administration's Emergency Use Authorization or Compassionate Special Permit, according to the IATF-EID Resolution 119 approved Thursday.
Now, in this interview of Eagle News International with Philippine Ambassador to India, Ramon Bagatsing Jr., on June 4, the Philippine envoy explained how the very, very strict lockdowns and intensified vaccination drive in India contributed to the decline in COVID cases in the last 2 weeks. Ambassador Bagatsing also explained that the people in India are also now strictly complying with health protocols, and so far, all Filipinos in India who got infected with the virus have also already recovered. Let's take a look.
Well, right now, the cases have gone down since about 10 days ago. So from a high of 414,000 a day, we're now down to about 130,000 a day. And in terms of deaths, from a high of about 5,000, we're down to about 2,500 a day. And here in Delhi, where the embassy is located, before we had a high of about 26,000 cases a day. Now it's down to about 450. So a very drastic was the decrease for the last 10 days. But this was also the result of very, very strict lockdowns. And this time, people were complying with all the restrictions, the COVID restrictions and the COVID protocols. So that's one main factor that they attribute to the decrease of the cases now of COVID here in Delhi, in particular, in India in general.
But can you tell us what was the cause of what happened in the past few days
with the explosion of cases? Ano po ang nangyari? Was it because recently there was a super spreader event, that one with the religious festival where they were gathering in the river. Was that one of those events that contributed to this explosion of cases? And what is your take on this, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, from what I read in the papers and what has been discussed here, there are two factors involved, the behavioral and the biological. Behavioral, as what you said, because of all these gatherings, social, political, religious, cultural gatherings, when the cases went down December, January, people eased up. Okay, and at the same time, so they had all these gatherings, which, as what you said, are super spreaders. Secondly, the biological factor. Apparently, the scientists have found out that we have this double mutant variant, this P1617 variant, or they call the Indian variant, which was more lethal. So that's the biological factor that they did not consider. So you combine these two, behavioral and biological, and there you have the very drastic, sudden, swift, and dramatic and sad events of increases in COVID cases.
Also, we also saw in the news, of course, that was all over the news, the lack of oxygen in hospitals, ICU beds or hospital beds. Can we ask, how is the situation right now in India with regards to this?
Well, things are much, much better now. I think the health services were completely overwhelmed by the resurgence of all these cases. No? But now, as I said, the past 10 days, because of the strict lockdown and compliance of the people with all the COVID protocols, it has eased up. So we don't have the problem anymore of lack of hospital beds, and we don't have the problem anymore of lack of oxygen tanks and concentrators. So it has eased up quite a lot.
The vaccination rollout, Mr. Ambassador, syempre we have mag-iisip din yung mga tao because the Serum Institute of India is right there. Pero do you think the vaccination rollout has not been that successful? Can you tell us more?
Well, again, as I said, because of the slowdown, November, December, January, February, government thought that they were over the hump. And the people also thought that they were over the hump. So they just took it easy. And there weren't too many people taking advantage of this free or minimal expense vaccine. But now they've been very aggressive. No? They have had already about 224 million cases of vaccine rollouts. And they're very aggressive now. And a lot of people are taking advantage of this. So about 15% of the population now have the vaccines. And government has provided funding for all these manufacturers of vaccine, both Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech, to ramp up production, to double their production. And I believe, based on the newspaper reports, that they have enough vaccines up to the end of the year. And the beautiful part about this, when they saw that they didn't have enough, is that they opened up. They expediently approved vaccines manufactured outside of India. So in a matter of 3-4 days, anything that has to do with COVID treatment, COVID relief, vaccines, 2-3 days they approved. All the regulatory requirements were waived. So if you have a vaccine that is already approved and being administered in the Western countries, US, UK, Europe, Japan, the Indian government just approved it. And it's now being given to the different constituencies.
Kumusta naman po ang ating mga kababayan po dyan?
Well, from the very sad stories we gave last month, now we have very good, happy stories because aside from the 3 that passed away last month, and then 73 who contracted the virus, now all of them are healed. So we don't have any more deaths, and the good news is that all of them got healed. So we're okay now, and no new cases. So that's the good part.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin po ba ang repatriation of Filipinos there? Or was there a repatriation or anything like that? Or because I know the borders are closed or flights are But I don't know if you have repatriated some Filipinos recently.
That's the difficult part, because even if we don't have a travel ban, which we do, there is a de facto travel ban because we don't have direct flights from India to the Philippines, and all flights pass through the Middle East or Hong Kong or Thailand, and all these transit areas have travel bans on flights coming from India. So you can't take a commercial plane out of India going to the Philippines. Because of that, there are no repatriation flights. Although we are still working on it, the option is still there. With instructions from Manila, from DFA, from the President, that as soon as the situation improves, let's prepare and let's schedule repat flights. So we are still working on that when the situation improves.
And you said that the vaccination rollout has already improved. Mas okay na po tayo ngayon. Kumusta naman po ang vaccination ng mga Filipinos po dyan?
Okay. The Indian government provides vaccines for all. The government provides vaccines for all, whether you're a resident, a citizen, or a tourist, or a foreigner. Okay? So even the Filipinos now, they just show an ID and they pay whatever is the rate based on whether they are going to a private hospital or a public hospital. They pay and they get the vaccine. When I took my vaccine, that was April, it was only 250 rupees.
Equivalent to?
That's about 180 pesos.
Oh.
Okay. Pero ngayon, they had to do it on a commercial level, no? So one brand is 1,100 rupees, or about 780 pesos, and the other brand is 1,500 rupees. So less 25-30%, no, depending on the currency exchange. So that's about it. Less than, I don't know, 1,000 to 100 pesos. You know. But it's not expensive. But it is heavily subsidized by the state. Heavily subsidized by the state.
Yung pong ating mga Pilipino dyan, syempre po, like in other countries, nagtutulungan po sila. Like may mga pantries or may mga ano po. Dyan po, paano po ba nagtutulungan ng ating mga kababayan dyan, ng ating Filipino community?
Dito, Alma, we only have about 3,000 Filipinos. No? This is a moving target. No? May mga nakakahuwi, pero may wala naman nakakarating. So of the 3,000 Filipinos, 80% are housewives. But some of these housewives are professionals, they're working also. And only about 20% are OFWs. So the housewives, I mean it as a compliment. Laki ng utang na loob namin. We owe a lot to the Filipino community here. They help each other out. They are our link. We have chat groups wherein any Filipina or Filipino who wants help gets into the chat group. Our emails are open, that they can email us anytime. And we work it out with them on how we can help each other. And we are doing that right now. And we have gone out and helped a lot with the help sa tulong ng Filipino community. But we have restrictions because of the lockdown. We cannot move. They're very, very strict here. So we just have to use the existing networks of the Filipino community who have been here for a long time. And that's how we go about doing things.
Sa healthcare sector naman po, meron po ba tayong mga Pilipino na nasa healthcare sector dyan? And kumusta naman po sila?
Wala eh. Wala tayong mga doctors and nurses dito. Although the head of the WHO here in India is Filipino, and we're very proud of that. Imagine the head of the WHO of India is a Filipino. So he has been a guiding light and a guiding force for us in providing professional advice and help on how to go about doing things.
Mga naapektuhan po ng COVID dati, pero mabuti naman at magaling na po sila ngayon. Has the government given them help?
Yes, we wrote to DFA and we asked for help. And the DFA has generously provided. Secretary Locsin said, whatever the Philippine Embassy in India needs, whatever the Filipino community in India needs, go and give it to them. And so we're working it out now. Those that were really severely affected before, those that were hospitalized, we were able to provide financial assistance. No? And those that were in the hospital, we were also been able to help them. Those who got stranded and they have no means to provide for their meals, etc. We're working out a mechanism whereby the assistance can be given to them because India is so huge. Malaki masyadong India.
Yes.
And there are some places that when there are no Indians, so we have to find a mechanism whereby whatever help and assistance we can provide will reach. So, and there are areas that very strict on lockdown. So hopefully by next week the lockdown will be lifted, so we can make it easier for us to give them the assistance that they.
You also have, Mr. Ambassador, jurisdiction over Nepal.
Yes, ma'am. Also very interested.
Mr. Ambassador, yes. And I have to ask, are there any Filipinos? We have Filipinos there. How many Filipinos do we have there? And how are they po?
Yeah, we have about, again, this is a moving number, about 150. So not too many. But Nepal is really also bad. And I feel for them because they're isolated in terms of not too many flights. And the health facilities also is being tested at this stage. No? So far, not too many Filipinos are adversely affected there. We are in communication with them. We don't have any sad story or may na seryosong tinamaan ng COVID o binamatay. So that's the good news. And then again, the repatriation. So some inquiries on paano sila makakauwi. And of course, also no flights from Nepal. So if ever they have to fly from Nepal to India, and if there are no flights Nepal to India, that makes it doubly worse. No? But the good thing is that we don't have negative stories about Filipinos in Nepal.
That's very good. Mr. Ambassador, your message to everyone watching you right now.
Well, thank you very much, Alma, and to Eagle Broadcasting for inviting me for this interview. All I can say is that with the help of our President and Secretary Locsin and the DFA, we're doing our level best to make sure that all the Filipinos' needs and requirements are met. And we thank also the Filipino community. They have been doing a fantastic job. Without them, I guess like any other Filipino community anywhere in the world, it would be extremely difficult for the embassy to be doing its job. And my staff, my God, we've been encountering a lot of difficult personal issues here. But thank God we're all okay. So don't worry. To the Filipinos who have relatives and friends here in India, we're doing our level best to take care of them. And as soon as possible time that we can fly them home safely, we will do it right away. Yun lang po. Thank you very much. Namaste. Namaste. At mabuhay po kayo lahat.
Namaste. Until we speak again, hopefully you will bring us good and improving news again when we speak to each other again. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much, Papa.
This portion is brought to you by Security Bank.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
It's time to take take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
Welcome back. A black box from a container ship sinking off Sri Lanka was recovered, but a dive on Sunday to check for oil leaks had to be aborted, that according to the Navy. The voyage data recorder, also known as the Maritime Black Box, was found intact and is expected to help investigators review procedures and instructions ahead of an accident. The Navy said divers were deployed for a third time on Sunday to examine the fuel tanks of MV Express Pearl, but they were unable to carry out their mission due to poor visibility and choppy seas. However, they did not notice any oil slick in the area, according to a Navy officer. He said another dive would be attempted when the weather improved. Sri Lankan authorities hope the black box will provide details of the ship's movements and its communications with the harbor in the capital Colombo, where it had been due to dock. Sri Lankan officials have said an acid leak since May 11 may have sparked a blaze. Ports in Qatar and India had refused to offload the leaking nitric acid. Police on the island nation launched a criminal investigation, interviewing the vessel's skipper and chief engineer, both Russians, and its chief officer, an Indian, and seizing their passports. Sri Lankan environmentalists on Friday sued the government and the ship's operators for allegedly failing to prevent what they called the worst marine disaster in the country's history.
Vietnam will resume international flights to its two biggest cities, officials said Wednesday, reversing a short-lived ban imposed over fears of a new coronavirus wave. The country's COVID-19 cases have more than doubled in the past month, prompting bars, restaurants, and schools to close and a rush to secure vaccines. As the country struggled to contain a virus outbreak in more than half of its territories, the Civil Aviation Administration of Vietnam on Monday announced a temporary suspension for international passenger arrivals at Hanoi's Noi Bai Airport from June 1 to 7. A similar order was in force for the airport in commercial capital Ho Chi Minh City until June 14. But on Wednesday, the Aviation Authority told airports and airlines that it had reversed the suspension without mentioning a time frame or giving an explanation.
Back here in the Philippines, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere said the Department of Health will no longer consider two Indian subvariants of COVID-19 as variants of concern. Let's listen in.
We checked on this actually, no? So tinignan natin. So ang sinabi ng WHO, they are removing two Indian variants, yung lineage niya, no? Yung mga point na, 'di ba, ang variant of concern ng Indian variant is B1.617.2. Yan yung variant of concern. So meron pang mga ibang lineage ang Indian variant na lumalabas sa classification na sinasubmit ng ibang bansa. Yan po yung tinanggal nila, dalawa dyan. But the UK variant and the South African variant remains to be a variant of concern at kasama pa dun sa listahan ng WHO.
Meanwhile, at least 7 Philippine Airlines flights between Manila and Hong Kong and the Middle East, scheduled for June 6 to 8, were canceled, according to the carrier in an announcement on Sunday night. In an advisory, PAL said the cancellations was due to the limited availability of quarantine hotel rooms. Now, these are the following flights that were canceled. Take a look. June 6, PR 5655, Riyadh to Manila. June 7, PR 5682 to 5683, Manila, Damam, Manila. Manila, June 8, PR 5654 and 5655, Manila, Riyadh, Manila, and PR 300-301, Manila, Hong Kong, Manila. PAL said it has already notified the affected passengers who could opt to refund their tickets or convert these to a travel voucher. Affected passengers may also avail of an unlimited rebooking with no rebooking fee until December 31. No fare difference will be charged to those who will travel in the same booking class until June 30.
Meanwhile, here in Thailand, the Bangkok Post reports that people are now flocking to vaccination centers across the country today as the government kicked off its long-delayed campaign to vaccination the population against the novel coronavirus. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha and Public Health Minister Anutin Chanvirakul said at Bangsul Grand Station that all eligible people would be vaccinated. The new railway hub is one of many places outside hospitals and health offices designated as vaccination centers to avoid congestion and speed up the inoculation process in Bangkok. Outside the capital, some shopping centers and sports facilities have also been designated as vaccination centers for local residents. Bangkok's new transport center was chosen as a symbolic place for the vaccination kickoff. Two types of vaccine are being distributed, Sinovac from China and AstraZeneca produced in Thailand. The government plans to vaccinate 50 million people, about 70% of entire population, by the end of this year to build herd immunity to COVID-19 disease. Philippine teenager Yuka Saso bearded the third playoff hole to beat Japan's Nasa Hataoka and win the U.S. Women's Open at Olympic Club on Sunday. Saso, 19, shook off two early double bogeys, coming back with late birdies at 16 and 17 in a 2/73 to thrust herself into a playoff with a 4-under total of 280 for 72 holes. As overnight leader Lexi Thompson faded, Hataoka carded a final round 68. But after both, she and Saso parred both holes of the two-hole aggregate playoff. It was Saso who came up with a birdie at the sudden death third hole. Saso matched South Korean Park In-hee as the youngest winners in the championship's history at 19 years, 11 months, and 17 days, and earned her LPGA Tour membership. Saso had held the 36-hole lead and started the day one shot off Thompson's lead. But she was in trouble early with double bogeys at the second and third. Saso was 2 under the rest of the way and had a long birdie putt to win at the 72nd hole. It didn't drop, but she rattled in the par putt to force the playoff. Hataoka seemed an unlikely title challenger as the day began. She was 6 shots off the lead and came within a whisker of completing the greatest final round rally in U.S. Women's Open history. She started with a birdie at the first and rebounded from a double bogey at the 6th with birdies at the 7th and 9th. After a bogey at 11 had her 7 shots off at the pace, the 22-year-old birded 13, 14, and 16, where she rolled in a breaking putt to pull within 1. 2 pars to finish made her the first in the clubhouse on 280, and it wasn't long until she was joined there by Saso. It was Hataoka's 4th LPGA Tour playoff and her 2nd in a major, but in each one, she was come up empty.
Thank you, Gila, for keeping me company today. Have a great week ahead.
Thank you, Alma. Thank you also for having me today. And thank you to all our viewers. Please join us once again tomorrow for an hour of latest news around the Southeast Asian nations. I'm Gila Pablo, reporting from Bangkok, Thailand, and we live in interesting times.
Special shout out to Brother Willen Regalado. Thank you for always watching and supporting us. I'm Alma Angeles. We'll see you back tomorrow. We'll live in interesting times.